council meeting for May 22nd, 2018. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Kim Ballou. Here. Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Red Brown. Here. Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Tyler Bird.
Present.
Todd Donovan. Here. Satpal Siddhu.
Would you all like to rise and join me in the flag salute?
Come back.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple of announcements. First off, if you'd like to turn off your cell phone, and if you're handing out any paperwork to the council members, please give one copy to the clerk for our files. I'm going to, at the back of the room, we have been distributing these yellow sheets, and I'm just going to read this into the record first, is the whole sheet. We've had a few questions come up about the proper rules of procedures for council meetings, and so we've extracted these from the current county code, and I just want to read these out and remind all of us up here on the podium and in the audience as well that these are the rules that have been agreed to. Under section 2.02040 meetings, general rules, all council and council committee meetings shall be conducted pursuant to the American Institute of Parliamentarian Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure, latest edition, except when in conflict with the standing rules of the council. During open session or a public hearing, audience members will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Cell phones shall be silenced and all cell phone conversations shall be prohibited within the confines of the council chambers during meetings. Placards, signs, applause or other distractions shall not be allowed in the council chambers without the consent of the council chair, and any person making personal, impertinent or slanderous remarks or become boisterous while attending a council or council committee meeting may be requested to leave the meeting and may be forthwith by the presiding officer barred from further audience before the council during that meeting. And then under section 2.02060 meetings, decorum of debate. Any council member wishing to speak shall first be recognised by the chair and shall confine his or her remarks to the specific subject under consideration or to be considered. The council member who has proposed a motion for the committee is the member shall be presented or the committee member who has presented a report shall be allowed the first opportunity to speak and explain the motion or report, and usually is allowed to speak last on it. No member or small group of members shall be permitted to monopolise a discussion on a question. If a member has already spoken and other members wish to speak, they should be recognised in preference to a member who has already spoken on the question. Then council members shall address each other as council member, and the council chair shall be addressed as the chair. Staff members, presenters, and the general public shall be addressed as Mr., Mrs., Ms., or by their official or honorary title. When two or more council members desire to speak at the same time, the chair shall name the member who shall have the floor. When a council member is speaking, no other member shall hold discourse or may interrupt the speaker except to raise a point of order. The chair should insist that every member be attentive to the business before the assembly. Council members shall have time to explain any motion they intend to make. All motions shall begin with the words, "I move," and must receive a second prior to being put to a vote. When it appears that all council members who wish to speak have done so, the chair shall inquire, is there any further discussion? If there is not, the question is put to a vote. And finally, to bring a question to an immediate vote, a council member may move to close debate. If more than one motion is pending, the motion to close the debate should specify the pending motions to which it applies, main motion, motion to amend, etc. And the motion to close debate cannot interrupt a speaker, is not debatable, and requires an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the council members in attendance. The motion to close debate should be used in moderation, as members cannot be expected to maintain interest in an organisation if they are frequently denied the right to participate in its deliberations. And with that, I would like to hand before I finish, this will be printed in the back of, on the second page of the council agenda from now on, and copies of this are available up the front. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you know out there in the public, we have lost a member of our Whatcom County team in that Superior Court Justice Ira Urick has passed away. He passed away on Monday. He's a very dear friend. I've known Ira for almost 50 years. We went to high school together, Bellingham High School. We served as drum majors together in the Bellingham High Band. We marched together in probably 36 parades afterwards in the Bellingham Alumni Band. And I'm going to miss him very much. He was a very fair judge. He was all business, but he could definitely crack a joke. That's one thing Ira could do. So I'd like you to join me in just a moment of silence to recognize Judge Ira Urick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I concur with your comments. Earlier today, we had an executive session, and I'd just like to invite again Mr. Buchanan to read something into the record. You want to read into the record what the results of the executive session?
Oh, yes, sorry. I was a little taken up there. Today we had an executive session. We were briefed about a case where we have, it's been filed in the United States District Court by a former inmate of the Whatcom County Jail. And it was, the lawsuit is against a couple of the deputies, the correctional deputies. We have, having been advised of the nature of the lawsuit and the allegations contained therein and pursuant to Whatcom County Code 2.56, I move that the council hereby affirmatively finds the following: that the officers named in the lawsuit, Deputies Matt Cherion and Robert Packard, were acting in a manner in which the county had an interest, that the officers were acting in the discharge of a duty imposed or authorized by law, and the officers did act in good faith. That's my motion.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next up is going to be public hearings. These are on specific ordinances. In this case, ordinance members who've signed up in the back of the room prior to the beginning of the meeting will be called first and are asked to form a line behind the signs on either side of the chambers. If you are unable to sign up before the meeting, you'll be given an opportunity to address the council once we've gotten through all the folks listed on the hearing sheets. Each speaker should state his or her name for the record and will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Council staff will keep track of the time limits and will let you know when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your comments. When a large group of individuals supports the same position on an issue, we encourage the selection of 1 or 2 representatives to speak on behalf of the entire group. First up is a public hearing, an ordinance establishing a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on certain Birch Bay area roads. And first up we have is Shirley. I'm going to read those names, and if you'd just like to come down and line up on either side, that'd be great. Shirley Reed, Robert, I think it's Wibbering, Judith Jones, Gail, I think it's Walker, and Billy Brown.
Yes, please.
Yes. And please just state your name for the record.
My name is Shirley J. Reed. I live at 8343 Beach Lamar Drive in Birch Bay, up in Bay Ridge Estates. I am here to speak against the golf carts on Birch Bay Drive. I have a list of things that I'd just like to just go through. We have too many cars as it is. More people are coming to Birch Bay. The shoulder is much too narrow for cars and slower golf carts. Kids on bicycles, especially in the summertime. The residents that live across from the beach, their grandkids come up in the summertime and they're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth across the road. There's people, some are disabled with motorized scooters as it is. There's people that walk. There's people that ride bicycles. You have kids on four-wheeled little pedal carts, giggling and laughing, and they're in and out of the road. I don't think we need any golf carts, any more people in vehicles like that on the road. The road is paid for, I presume, by county or funds paid by our license fees. I understand, I haven't heard or haven't read. Maybe did not get all of the information out of all the different papers, but it's my understanding that they're not going to have to be licensed. If the homeowners along the beach where it's so narrow, they complain if you get onto their area, because they have areas set up that they can go out and sit on the beach side of the road and have their coffee and tea and picnics. And it's listed as private property. There's driveways coming out onto that roadway along the whole beach. And there's, like I say, there's kids and adults constantly on the road. The summertime is even worse. And I think if people want to use their golf carts, and they use them if they live in the village,
30 seconds, please.
they can leave and use them in the village. If they live in my area, they can use them in my area. Otherwise, I don't think we need them on the county roads where there's too much traffic as it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy Brown.
Question. I have a question for her.
Okay. I'd like to get through the public hearing, if we could.
I have a question.
do-
She's supposed to spell her name so that people, if it's not Smith or Jones, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
He's
sorry.
supposed to say that.
I apologize.
Not your fault.
Okay, my last name is Reed, R-E-E-D.
I was satisfied it was clear enough for the record. Mr. Brown.
We are 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, but if we can
No,
just
this
jump
is, we're on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Okay, I just want to say the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. My name is Billy Brown. I'm the president of the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce. I live in Birch Bay for the last 30-something years. We've got a lot of roads in Birch Bay that they're not 25-mile-an-hour speed limit because they just kind of slip through the cracks. They're as far as being identified as those 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. Whether the golf cart community passes or not, those roads should be 25 miles an hour. A great example is Beach Way. Beach Way isn't wide enough to be a road that's any faster than 25 miles an hour. The roads, all the roads it connects to are 25 miles an hour at every end. So there's no reason not to support the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. That's all I have to say on that. The golf cart community is a whole different issue, and I imagine we're going to call that next.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The next again is Judith Jones, Gail, I think it's... Okay, then you're on the next. Yep, okay. So is there anybody else wishes to speak on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. What is the wish of this council? What is the wish of the council? We have a motion and a second. Mr. Bird, do you wish to speak to it, or Mr. Buchanan? No. Any other discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Can you clarify who made the motion, please?
Mr. Bird and Mr. Buchanan seconded.
Thank you. Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Brett Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. The next item up was an ordinance creating a golf cart zone on certain roads in the Birch Bay area, AB 2018-125, and we have several people who've signed up for this. Chuck Kinzer, David Saville, David, I think it's Brevin, Pam Hensrow, and Wayne Diaz. If you could all line up and first one come up, please. And again, please state your name for the record.
My name is Chuck Kinzer, Kinzer. I live at 8140 Birch Bay Drive. Been there since my parents were there when I was 12 years old. So I come here to speak in strong opposition to the proposed ordinance to create a golf cart zone. My arguments center around 4 areas: safety, residents' opposition, need, and standing of the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce as advocating for this ordinance. I'll briefly do that. I submitted a petition and some documents in support of what I'm going to say to the clerk. I can share all of those with you as well. In order and briefly, since I only have 3 minutes, the safety concern, there have been 4 major studies by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 2010, the Oregon Transportation Research and Education Consortium 2012, Transport Canada in 2008. All of the studies did crash tests, all concluded that golf carts were not crashworthy, result in injury or death to drivers and passengers even at speeds of 25 miles an hour or less. They impede traffic flow, they increase collision rates, and there are over 12,000 injuries per year based on golf carts, and most of those are off golf course injuries and deaths. The Whatcom County ordinance defines golf carts as having a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour. In Birch Bay, the speed is 25 miles an hour. That certainly will impede traffic. We live right on Birch Bay Drive. We see people passing people who, it's illegal, but they do it. They pass people all the time when people are doing 25. If a golf cart is doing 20, they'll certainly pass those. That creates more danger for children, creates more danger for bicycles, creates more danger for everyone, including the drivers of the golf carts. Golf carts actually only have brakes on the rear wheels. That causes them to fishtail when they're coming downhill and coming to a stop. Most of the hills coming down to Birch Bay Drive, the roads are very hilly. Shintaffer, Anderson, Harborview, all of them are hills. Golf carts would have difficulty braking. That causes issues. In terms of need, there really isn't a need that resulted from residents here. This came from the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce. The May 9th issue of the Northern Light quotes Billy Brown, who I like very much and respect as the president of the chamber. But Billy was quoted as saying that this was a result of the chamber needing to use golf carts 4 times a year during their events on a 200-yard strip, basically between the visitor center and where the events are held. That 4 times a year then now translates to the entire community being impacted, tax dollars being spent for signage and placement of signs. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe an ordinance or a variance for 4 times a year could solve the problem that the chamber sees. But the chamber also doesn't have legal
30
standing in this.
seconds, please.
The chamber, by definition from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, represent businesses, not residents. Of the 104 businesses listed on the chamber's website, only 35 have business addresses in the Birch Bay community. Even realtors who do business there don't have an address, many of them, in the Birch Bay community. It's usually Birch Bay Square, Bellingham, elsewhere.
Time.
Thank you. Can I submit the documents to you for perusal? Or
Submit.
do I give all 8 copies to the clerk?
You can give 1 copy to her if you would, and then give if you hand the rest of them over to either end, they'll pass them
Oh,
down.
sure.
Thank
You
you.
can give it to me.
Good evening. My name is David Savell, Savell. I live in Birch Bay Village, and I am also opposed to the golf cart ordinance. Golf carts do not have to be insured. They're checking with the insurance company. If I got struck by a golf cart, I would have to use my uninsured motorist insurance for it, which puts a liability on myself and possibly affect my insurance rates. Putting unlicensed or uninsured vehicles on the same road as you're putting cars and trucks in delivery vans, etc., doesn't make sense. The equipment needed on a golf cart, many golf carts have no turn signals, rear view mirrors, side mirrors, brake lights. They are a recreational vehicle meant for our golf course, not for our public roads full time. The majority of the people in Birch Bay do not own golf carts, so we're catering to a few people that do have golf carts. And of those few people, a lot of them, why do you want to go from the village to a real estate company or the market I don't think so. Most of them would not be using the roads. So again, we're setting a regulation that will allow a few people to hinder traffic on a major thoroughfare. If any of you have ever been in Birch Bay during the summertime, you'll know what I'm talking about as far as traffic. And to impede that does not make any sense. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to come forward?
Hi, my name is Judith Jones, and I also oppose having the golf carts on the highway. One of the things mentioned was that you would allow unlicensed drivers, 16 years old, if they had had driver education. You have to have a license to operate a car. If you're going to run a golf cart on the road, why wouldn't it be the same? Also, there's too much traffic. We've got kids running across the road as it is, going to the beach. We have adults going across the road. We have, like he mentioned, sometimes people get impatient and pass in a double yellow, even when the other car is doing the speed limit or a little above it. It's a bad idea. It won't work. It'll create more problems than what we've already got traffic-wise. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anybody else who'd like to speak on this topic, please line up in front of the microphone.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm David Bruin, Brewin. I live in Birch Bay, at the south end of Birch Bay. I previously lived right on Birch Bay Drive near the Sea Shop. I have a wife, 2 kids, 8 and 10, and I think of ourselves as a Birch Bay family. We attend all the events, the Kite Festival, the Sand Cancel competition. We go to the Sea Shop every week in the summer. We're down at the beach all the time. We ride bikes, we walk, we kayak, we paddleboard. So we're all over the place in our community. When I heard about this proposed ordinance, I thought the idea was great. Birch Bay is the perfect community for this idea in the sense that we have neighborhoods all connected by low-speed roads already, and since this other ordinance passed, that's great. Our speeds are going to be lower and safer for our kids. I think adding, compact, low-speed, speed-limited golf carts to Birch Bay would be a great way for residents to get around, enjoy our community. I can totally imagine getting my kids into a golf cart and going down to get ice cream. Heading down to the beach. I've visited communities in other states, in Florida and Arizona. I've seen these communities. People are happy, they're waving to each other. I think it would be great for our residents, our tourists, our businesses. I think seniors and retirees would love it as an easy alternative rather than jumping in a car to go down and do a short trip, take the dog to the beach, things like that. I think in terms, it seems a lot of people are worried about congestion and safety. We're not going to see 5,000 golf carts on the road if this passes. We're going to see a few here and there. Like I said, not everybody owns one. I personally would love it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to afford a golf cart either. But I think it's a great idea, and I think it builds the community up. In terms of congestion, studies have shown that compact, low-speed vehicles can actually ease congestion, and they take up less room on the roads. Downtown Nashville actually allowed golf carts downtown to ease congestion. People are worried about getting stuck behind people. In the 5.5 miles of Birch Bay Drive included in this ordinance, there's 9 connecting roads. If you need to get out off Birch Bay Drive and go around, it's simple, it's easy, you can do that. Safety for the people in the carts, certainly safer to me than riding a bike or walking with my kids along the side of the road. People will see us. There's reflectors on the back of these. Based on the Washington state rules, you're going to have seat belts.
30 seconds,
A lot of people
please.
say that accidents in golf carts, the highest incident of accident is related to people falling out of golf carts. And the seatbelt obviously would solve that issue. Anyway, in terms of safety for pedestrians and bicyclists on the road, I think they're going to be safer from a golf cart than they would be a car anyway. So I'm in favor of the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to come down?
My name is Gail Walker.
I am the owner of Paddle and Pedal Adventures in Birch Bay. We've been there for 9 years. We've been renting one golf cart for 2 years. And we have had zero issue with having anyone be disrespectful in the rental of the cart. We also rent Birch Bay Surreys that have been on the beach now for 50 years, which are bigger than a golf cart, go slower than a golf cart. Our requirements are that you are 16 years old or more to drive anything, and you have a parent in the vehicle with you. Primarily, we use our golf cart not for rentals, but to facilitate. We have a kayak trailer that we hook up to the back of the golf cart and take over to the beach so we can carry 4 or 5 kayaks, which are 35 to 50 pounds apiece, and the people, so that they can easily access our beautiful bay. So, as being the only business person that this would impact, it's not a huge thing for me, not for you guys not to allow the golf carts as far as income goes, but it negates our sense of community. If we allow golf carts, people in Leisure Park have actually 400 golf carts in Leisure Park. Not all will be down on the same day. We'll be going to the same place. Our golf cart goes less than 3 miles in the hour and a half that it's out. It goes down to the Sea Shop, where it takes an hour and a half to get a pizza. Sorry, Pat. Or picks up some drinks for the room upstairs. We're at Worldmark. And you guys, this is the time to stand up and say, let's make Birch Bay a community again. Because we've been suffering. You know, when you go from 20 people, 20 responses to your parade, when we would allow golf carts, we could have how many in our parade? We could become a golf cart parade. That would be awesome. So that's what I'm saying. And plus, if we have our golf carts, we give them to the sheriff on the 4th of July.
Thank you, Gail.
I think the gentleman over here.
Wayne Diaz, I'm the Vice President of the Birch Bay Chamber, and I am for the golf carts on Birch Bay areas. I live in Birch Bay Village, which is a golf cart community, and I think it needs to be expanded to the Birch Bay area, especially trying to park. If you ever want to go to a restaurant, especially the Sea Shop, you can't find a parking place. It'll relieve some of that. I'm not saying it'll relieve all of it, but some of it. I just think that we need to have a little more areas to roam around in our own little area and make it easier to park. There's going to be another restaurant, grand opening of another restaurant in our area, and that area is going to be really congested in the next 2 weeks or so. And I just want to say, please pass this. Thank you.
That got his attention. No, just hand it to somebody and they'll pass them with us. You're taking up your 3 minutes.
Birch Bay is perfect for a golf cart community. Thanks, Chuck, for mentioning my name, but I'll tell you how I've told you guys how this idea came about, and yes, that's how it started, but it's the community that influenced us to move forward with this. What we have is 354 signatures on that petition from members of our community and vacationers. Vast majority of them live in Birch Bay. I was here before. I explained I've talked to probably 200 people. Very few people are against this. I believe it's safe for Birch Bay. This morning, I left my home at 8:30. When I got on between Beachway and used to be Morgan Drive, I had to slow way down because there was this nice little old lady with this cute little dog walking on the wrong side of the road, and I couldn't go around her because there's another car coming. This is how we live in Birch Bay. When you're leaving Birch Bay, you've got plenty of ways to get off the bay without going down Birch Bay Drive. So I don't believe for 1 minute it's going to be a big problem with traffic. I own a golf cart. I've never hurt myself in my golf cart. Birch Bay has hundreds of walkers and bikers in the summertime daily. I can remember one accident, and I believe that was on New Year's Day, and it had to do with a little dog or something, but that's what happened. It's just when you're on Birch Bay Drive, people drive slow. I want to thank you guys for your consideration. Obviously, I'm for this. I appreciate your time, and please support this because it's going to be really good for tourism for Birch Bay. I've really spent some time trying to get the word out because last time I was here, I felt like the council felt like we didn't do a very good job with getting it out in the community. Well, let me tell you, we've been on Channel 4, we've been on Canadian media, we've been in our newspaper. I know every single place I go, people know about this. So the word's out there. I'm assuming you've received lots of email transmissions from people that are supporting this. We've tried. I believe it's good for our community, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Alessi.
Take a deep breath, Pat.
Patrick Alessi, 4825 Alderson Road. Please, that oven is over 100 years old. But I mentioned last time that I was neutral on the golf carts. And I said to my son as I left today, did you give your input? And he said, well, no. He says, I started typing up something. I said, well, what is it? Well, he said, I felt like we should just try it. So that's his input. Now,
We're going to get chocolates out of this?
I know, dark chocolate. As far as accidents along Birch Bay Drive, 2 years ago, a young lady was hit in the head by a truck had a big. So my concern is, and always is, pedestrian and bicycle safety along the road. We need to keep our focus on that too. So good luck with this decision. I want you to know, I read every comment that people made on the Birch Bay community things, and I even broke into Birch Bay Village, who's very seclusive, and I read their comments too. Good luck.
Mr. Bird, I think it's time for you to press that button.
He's got the best chocolate anywhere.
Thanks, Pat.
Normally not. Sorry. It's a different hearing.
It's a different hearing.
There's two. If there were, for the clarity, for the benefit of the audience, we have already. We're on our second public comment hearing. A person is allowed to speak at each of the hearings. They are different topics.
Thank you for asking. I didn't know that either.
Mr. Kent.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this. Before I do so,
State your name for the record.
Mike Kent in Birch Bay. I'm wearing cowboy boots. I just don't want to mistake anything. On our 37th wedding anniversary, I promised my wife I'd go line dancing. That's where we came from. It's a lot less scary to be in this room. That's all I'm going to tell you. This whole thing about safety is crucial and key to this whole topic. We're pretty familiar with golf cart usage. We have a second home in Sun City West, Arizona. 20,000 homes, probably about 4,000 to 5,000 golf carts. We've been using golf carts there as a second vehicle for the last 10 years without any problems, and very seldom. When there's a problem, it's usually a speeding car. I was involved when we reduced the speed limit and lobbied the county to move the speed limit from 35 in the winter down to a number we could live with year-round, which is 25 miles per hour. That was an important safety step that the Birch Bay Chamber was largely responsible for pushing that. So the Chamber does have safety in mind. I think so long as this is policed, and long as the carts are adequately powered to keep up with the 25 mile per hour, you won't have congestion, you won't have dangerous passing. It'll simply be another vehicle that happens to be smaller. The amount of lift this will give to local businesses, I think, will be amazing. I just picked up a brochure today, the Waterside, and there's a quarter-page ad in there for Port Townsend to do golf cart tours. Sumas is a golf cart community. Everson is a golf cart community, and go down through many, many communities in the state of Washington. So there's already precedent set. The key is to police it in such a way that it's safe. The vehicles are safe. The safety belts are important. The amount of people that would be drawn to this community for the unique mode of transportation would greatly help those businesses succeed in the winter. Some people said that we were trying to line pockets. In actuality, that's absolutely true. The Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce works very hard to line the pockets of commerce in the businesses so we as citizens can enjoy the service they provide in a community that's very difficult to get through in the winter. Anything we can do to support them in any of the month of the year is favorable. It's got to be safe. If we can do it safely, I think this is just a tremendous idea, and the word will spread fast. One of the first places I heard about it actually was in the news in Canada. One U.S. seaside community may introduce golf carts. The word's out there. Hopefully we can live up to the billing and do it in a safe fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anybody else who wishes to speak on the issue regarding an ordinance creating a golf cart zone, please line up.
Hi, I'm Margot Savell, same spelling as my husband who spoke earlier. I live in Birch Bay. I totally agree with Mike. Safety is crucial. If it's safe, that's one thing. But how do we make it safe? Golf carts can't go more than 20 miles an hour. We've got the speed limit of 25 that we just all heard and just heard you guys discuss, voted on. Golf carts can't go more than 20. And I'm sorry, with all due respect, we're not in the parade business. I mean, yeah, it's a great thing, but I'm concerned about the young kids, the elderly, the senior citizens, the people who are going to work and dealing with the commute. Sure, you can take side streets, but how many people are going to be behind a golf cart, want to go faster, get in a lane they shouldn't? You can't compare golf courses, I'm sorry, but to bikes or to people walking. They're not insured. They don't have licenses. Drivers do. A golf cart does not. And it really frightens me. This is the first time I've come to a council meeting in my life. I used to be a journalist, and I never went to council meetings. I covered Parliament in Canada, but I never went to council meetings. I wrote to you last week because in Birch Bay Village, there's a public forum going on about this, and I'm sorry, but the people who are talking, 80% against this because people are worried about the safety. If you can lower the speed to 20, if you can make sure that people in golf carts follow all the safety rules that Mike said and I agree with that are necessary, great. But how's that going to happen? Who's going to police it? Who's going to cover the insurance? I think those are all really serious questions that, if nothing else, I'd suggest tabling this because it's a really serious concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anybody else who wishes to speak, please line up, otherwise we'll close the open public session. Sorry, we'll close the session on this ordinance.
Good evening, my name is Pam Hansen. I am a resident of Birch Bay. I have a home down on Birch Bay Drive, and I am also on the board of the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce. I'm 63 years old, Whatcom County resident, grew up in Birch Bay. When I was a child, it was a tourist area. It's gone through a couple different phases. The Chamber of Commerce in the last 10 years has really worked hard to bring more tourism back to our area, which in turn feeds the economy, which in turn helps all the businesses. We're really a strong community, and the area that we would like to have the golf cart zones available are the 25-mile-an-hour zones. In the summer, we've already heard from many people. We have a lot of walkers, we have bikers. Some concern was trucks passing. Well, the thing is a lot of through traffic doesn't go down Birch Bay Drive. Sure, when they leave the village, they can take roads sooner than Harborview. From Point Whitehorn, we take Grandview. We can take Point Whitehorn Road. While being at the cabin in the summer on the weekends, there are golf carts out there right now, not a lot, but it's kind of a joy to watch them go by. I've never seen anything bad happen. I've not even seen vehicles pass them, and we have seen vehicles go fast, but The majority of the action is in the summer months, and the people that do come out there are more for vacationing. Tourism is a big thing that we need to bring back to Birch Bay, and not just for Birch Bay residents, but Whatcom County. Whatcom County needs a park on the water, salt water. It's great for clamming. We have a state park. We have a county park coming. We don't have a lot of parking for vehicles. It would also decrease the carbon imprint, which I know some people think that that's, something we should look at, but why not? Bring less gas pollution down to the beach. A lot of the residents will drive down there. Other people will come and they'll be able to rent them. It'll maybe bring back Birch Bay to that area. A lot of the homes on Birch Bay Drive are summer homes or weekend homes, so I'm for it. And the thing
30
about the
seconds,
Chamber of
please.
Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce works hard to bring in tourism and provide events for all people of Whatcom County and out of state and out of country. So that's just going to be an added thing that'll kind of make it fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
If there's no one else, this gentleman will be the last one speaking on this topic.
My name is Todd Rutgers, and we have a little cabin on Birch Bay Drive there. And actually, I'm one of the people that have driven a golf cart down Birch Bay Drive in the past several years and had no problems doing that. And it's very enjoyable to go for a little ride on there. And we see the 4-person bikes out there, which take up just as much room, if not more, than what a golf cart does. You see kids on hoverboards. The Birch Bay Drive is not a main commuting thoroughfare. And really, I've never seen a traffic problem where it's backed up traffic or anything like that. And typically, like the sheriff's department, maybe they're not supposed to, but they kind of look the other way when they do see a golf cart out there. 4th of July night last year, there were 2 sheriffs riding on 2 different golf carts, driving around giving out plastic bags to pick up your garbage and stuff. And the next day, a different deputy came out there and said, oh, this is a terrible thing, we got to get rid of the golf carts. And that's what started this whole thing. So when there's events out there, like the chamber has and stuff, and there's traffic congestion, it's really handy to be able to take your golf cart and just be able to use it. And so I'm definitely for it. I have not seen a problem in several years with doing this, and you see some go up and down the road, and like I say, got a rear view mirror, approach it with a safety stance, but like I say, there's really no difference between those and a lot of people on the 4-wheel bicycles. So I'm definitely for it. Thank you.
Ms. Brenner.
Could you spell your name for the clerk?
Todd, T-O-D-D, Rutgers, R-U-T-G-E-R-S.
And I'd just like to ask, no interruptions unless you're recognised by the chair. That wasn't you, so thank you. Thank you. And this will be the last speaker if there's no one else coming up.
Doralee Booth, Birch Bay. Birch Bay is known as a recreational resort community. It's our identity. Our economy is centered on tourism, and Whatcom County recognizes Birch Bay as a tourist destination. My concern is that we've heard a lot about safety, and safety on Birch Bay Drive is all questionable. How safe can you be on Birch Bay Drive when you're on your bicycle and cars are going by? How safe can you be on Birch Bay Drive when you're walking? It's an enhanced shoulder, not large enough for 2 people to walk together on it. This has been Birch Bay Drive since the 1950s. This is who we are. I live on the drive. I watch commuters coming from the north who are commuting. They can get off the drive in the summer. They can go up Shintaffer, go out Anderson at 25 miles an hour, go on to Anderson across Harborview at 35 miles an hour. They can get out of Birch Bay. The inconvenience argument that is going to inconvenience us in our travels, my mantra for Birch Bay Drive in the summer is, Birch Bay is heaven. Don't drive through it like hell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, we'll close the open public session. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Mr. Donovan moves approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was councillors. Mr Buchanan. Discussion, Mr Siddhu or Mr Buchanan first.
I just like what Pat Alcee said, try it.
Okay, Mr Buchanan, no, Ms Brenner.
I would like to talk to Joe, I guess.
Joe Rutan with Public Works.
I definitely support this, but I do want to make sure that we have safety issues addressed too. It seems to me it wouldn't be that difficult to require insurance from anybody who's got one in case they're in an accident, because I don't want someone else to have to pay for whatever happens. But the other thing is, and I'm not sure whether I support this or not, but I'd like to hear some discussion on it about requiring a license for, because I know that there are more older people who have let their licenses lapse, and it's not the same as driving a car, I don't think. So I could be persuaded one way or the other on the license, but I like the idea of insurance. Are there any other communities that are golf cart communities that require insurance?
I can address insurance. You know, it's interesting, insurance, motorcycles don't require insurance either.
You don't?
Now, I'm a motorcycle rider. I am insured to the hilt. So required and actually doing it. So
motorcycles don't have
motorcycles in the state of Washington do not require to have insurance.
Well, you got a
I
motorcycle.
cannot tell you what other communities do, although I can tell you I ride around a lot around the state, and I like to stay off the interstates and stay on the highways and byways. And as you go to the east side, almost all of those communities are golf cart zones as you come into them and then leave.
Well, then,
very common.
I have one other question, because I'm sure you've done a lot of research on this. Some fella spoke about there being all these accidents and deaths. I've never ever heard of a death from a golf cart in an accident on a road. But I don't. Have you looked into those?
I have not done any research like that.
Oh, you didn't?
No. We were asked to put together a golf cart zone,
Yeah,
and we
but
did.
you're really good at looking into things you think aren't safe. I remember.
Mr Donovan.
Hang on for a second here. The state law, RCW 4608-175, says golf carts must be equipped with reflectors, seat belts, and rearview mirrors.
Correct.
So that addresses some of the safety
Correct.
stuff.
And rearview mirrors include a center rearview mirror and a driver and passenger side mirror.
And the law also says that every person operating a golf cart, the state law, is subject to all the duties applicable to the driver of a vehicle under Chapter 4661. I don't know what 4661 is, but that doesn't mean you need insurance?
No.
Okay, but
That has to do with the rules of the road.
you're expected to be behaving as a licensed driver.
Stay in the lane, you respect the signs,
Okay, any further discussion? Mr Bird.
So I think that I'm actually pretty interested in this one. I can compare it to a couple kind of examples as I think through it. Driving in this morning on North Shore, there's some really just terrible blind corners, and I come around those, and the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, and you have a biker heading uphill at 10 miles an hour, and you can't see around the corner, and so you slow down. Hopefully you don't hit him. He doesn't have insurance. He doesn't have a driver's license. He's riding in the middle of the road. And I'm like, would I take that right away from him because it annoys me? I won't. And I think I think that's more dangerous than being in a golf cart. And yet I think it's their personal responsibility to accept that risk, and it more so than mine. At the same time, I can think of yesterday, after school, I picked up my kids from school, and I took them to the golf club and let them hit some balls off the driving range. And on the way out to the driving range, the oldest one drove the golf cart. On the way back in, the youngest one drove the golf cart. And I didn't touch anything, and they're 8 and 9, and they did fantastic. Now, I'm not saying they should drive on the roads in Birch Bay, but I'm saying a golf cart is pretty easy to steer and maneuver. And so from that standpoint, I do feel like it is a little bit safer than a car. I wouldn't put either one of those behind the wheel of a car, but I feel comfortable behind the wheel of a golf cart. I do think that they're cleaner. I think that they're more energy efficient. I think they're better for the environment. I think that they will help with congestion, and I think they'll definitely help with parking. I also think that they're quieter, and it'll bring a little bit more maybe serenity to the area. I know Birch Bay. I worked at Edric's out there for 8 years. I lived in Birch Bay Village for a long time, and I love the whole entire area. With that said, regardless of whether I'm in favor of something or not, I do think that before we go full bore into something as a government, we should test things out first. And so I would make a friendly amendment or a motion to this that says that we put a 1-year kind of sunset policy to it that says it'll be evaluated in 1 year. And we can look and see, has it caused worse congestion? Do we have accidents? Do we have other issues that maybe we should be understanding? And if that's the case in a year, then it will cease to exist. And if it's not, then we can vote to continue it.
We have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Who seconds it? Any discussion on the motion to amend?
Yes. I would say that since we are in May already, I would not say 1 year, I would say 18 months, so that we have 2 summers in there. But I also like the favor that we should let it happen, and then everybody will have chance to come back and review it, and then we can see which way to go.
May I make a friendly amendment to make a date certain of December 31st, 2019?
Or 18 months from whenever we pass.
And I'm just saying, just a date certain, just 27, December 31st, 2019.
That's fine.
Yeah. Ms. Brenner.
I'm not sure I totally heard I don't want us to say it's over if we have problems. I would like it to be, see if we can figure out the problems, because you kind of said it won't.
It would depend, I suppose. We'd have to look at all the data and decide. Yeah, I think we would evaluate the data. It's not an either or. I think we evaluate the data and we make a decision as a council at that point.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion to amend?
Does the person making the main motion have any say on the?
Yes, they do. I propose an amendment to Mr. Siddhu's comment, which was an amendment, friendly amendment to yours.
But I think he's talking about my amendment to
Yes,
his
I'm just
motion.
talking amendment to his amendment.
We're going to go do this again.
So to be accurate, you made a motion.
Yep.
Mr. Siddhu made a proposal. I made a subsequent proposal. Do you accept both amendments?
Wait.
I think they're in conflict.
Friendly
I accept the 18 months.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, the main motion that I made, what happened to that one?
We're going to still vote on
They
it.
get disposed next because we have to dispose of the amendment first.
Unless you want to take it
It's
as a
the
friendly
correct
amendment.
sequence. No. So you have accepted Mr. Siddhu's motion to amend for 18 months.
Yes.
I had proposed we just make it till the end of next year. Do you wish to accept that or not? It's up to you.
I'd like 18 months.
That's fine. No, it's not accepted. So we have a motion to amend for 18 months as a sunset. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
That's 6 yeses and 1 no, correct? All right, now we're on the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion?
What was the main motion?
The main motion is to adopt,
All right.
it won't be a motion, it'll be an ordinance. So
Right.
I'm assuming we can do the motion to amend as a voice vote, and you need the ordinance as a roll call, correct? All right, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Aye.
Paul Siddhu,
Yes.
Tim Ballou.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Next item up is an ordinance amending the Whatcom County Code 15.04 building codes regarding fees for appeals to the county council. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this issue?
I just say really quick, thanks for everybody coming down.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on the ordinance amending the Whatcom County Code 15.04 building codes regarding fee for appeals to County Council, AB 2018-142. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Mr. Bird moves approval. Do we have a
Second.
second? Mr. Buchanan seconds. Any discussion? Did you wish to speak? The maker, no. Ms. Brenner?
But I only get picked if no one else
No,
wants
no,
to speak.
the rules are the maker of the motion gets to speak first.
Yeah, okay. I would like to know, in this thing, unless I missed it, even in Exhibit A, it doesn't say what the fees are. I'm going to support it because they were in code anyway, and it's kind of been, it wasn't where it was supposed to be or something. But what are the fees?
There currently isn't a fee. This came up because of the case we had recently where the kid.
Your name is?
I never
Yeah,
have to
who
say
are
my
you?
name. Everybody knows. Karen Frakes for the record. This came up with the kid who had the basketball facility
yeah,
in
no,
his
I
barn.
remember.
And so there was no fee
No,
for
there's
it.
not in that, but somewhere
There-
else.
No, there was no fee anywhere for it. And so
Not what the executive wrote us.
I don't think the executive had
This is a
anything to
county
do with
council.
this. This was generated by Marina with my assistance.
Yeah, well, wait a sec, here's the.
Yeah, so
oh,
there
that's
there
Marina.
was no
Oh,
fee,
it's
and
two
that didn't seem fair, so we thought it was fair to, if they prevailed, they'd get their fee back.
So we'd be setting the fee later.
Didn't we get a letter from the executive? or
Right,
not?
right. The fee will be set in the context of the unified fee schedule. Yeah, so,
Sorry, Chair recognises Mr. Bird and then Mr. Donovan, if he wishes to speak.
I think we have the same question, which is, so is it in the unified fee schedule now? And if no, will it come before us for approval? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Donovan? That's it. Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Can a fee for something like that be waived if someone has some kind of a, financial problem? So they can't, they can't, it seems like it should be, we're supposed to say justice for all, so what if somebody doesn't have the money to appeal and they're right?
if they have an appeal with merit, they will get their money back.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah, all right.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Rudd Brown?
Yes.
Barry Buchanan?
Affirmative?
Tyler Bird?
Yes.
Todd Donovan?
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu?
Yes.
Tim Baloo?
Yes.
Barbara Brenner?
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
I have one other question.
Brenner.
Is the fee itself, when it's decided upon, going to come to the council for
Yeah.
approval?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, next item up is the open public session. During the open session, audience members will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record. If your last name is something other than Smith or Jones, please spell it for the clerk. Please make sure to speak into the microphone. Please stand behind the signs located in the aisles as a courtesy to other speakers. Thank you for your cooperation. Start with gentleman over here first. Mr. Donovan, could you take over for a bit? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dana Briggs, B-R-I-G-G-S. Recurring theme, homelessness in Whatcom County. So, with due respect to Councilmember Buchanan and Brown, Executive Jack Lowes, and especially for Satpal's information, based earlier today on the discussion on homelessness, let me repeat this. According to the Department of Social and Health Services local Bellingham office and the county health department, their numbers are approximately 3,000 to 3,200 homeless people in this county. Okay? DSHS bases theirs on self-reported homelessness as reported during initial application for or 6-month or 1-year reviews for people that are simply on food stamps. That isn't include other individuals that are on other programs. Out of, or as of March, approximately 185 of those 3,000 to 3,200 homeless were under the age of 5. About 60 to 70 of them were 65 or older. 70% of them are within the confines of Bellingham, which means that 30% are floating around out in the other small cities or the county proper, which means we've got somewhere between 900 and 1,000 homeless people outside of Bellingham, but within the county. And again, as a reminder, this does not include people that we don't know in what way, shape, or form that they are homeless. So this is not only for the county's information, or the council's information, I should say. This is also for anybody that's sitting in this audience, and anybody that's happening to watch these proceedings on YouTube or other avenues. The director of the Bellingham office supposedly sent this information to the council sometime within the last 3 to 4 weeks. I'm not sure that you all got it, but there's a spreadsheet that he and I have agreed to work on with these statistics. If you don't remember seeing it, then I'll make sure that it gets sent out by email. This is something that's not normally reported down to this level of granularity. Normally they just do aggregate numbers
30 seconds, please.
On the county level. But he's also agreed that we want to take a look at it every 6 months or so. So the information I gave you was as of the end of March, and we'll be doing it again in 6 months, so we can see where we're at in the total populations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
John Campbell, spelled like the soup. First of all, my condolences to the loss of your friend. Earlier today, in the Planning and Development Committee, we spoke about ordinance code amendments to allow for homeless or tiny home encampments and storage lockers to be located. And what came out of that from Public Works was that we have to do, any amendment has to go through law enforcement, health department, prosecutor's office for health and safety reasons. And I find that kind of ironic because the issue of homelessness, as it's increasing, is a health and safety issue. So on one hand, we say, well, we have to have a health and safety code to make this happen. But on the other hand, it's really not an issue. And secondly, just remind you that these are portable. If that code is not in compliance with the placement of these encampments or lockers, then they can be removed very easily. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Mike, and then Darlene, if anybody else is up here for open session, come on down.
Mike Kaufman, Kaufman, and because it's a short session here, it seems this may be a little bit of a liberty, but it sets the stage for conversations I hope to have in the future with you folks. I was born Cleveland, Ohio. My dad built his home in 1950 there. My parents in their 90s still live in that home. It was out in a south suburb. Hey, I was just a white kid that grew up in the suburbs, I thought. People don't know a lot about Cleveland, but in its day, it was one of the largest cities in the country. It had more corporate headquarters than anywhere practically in the world. More patents were owned in northern Ohio. It was a big money city. Elliot Ness was set there after Chicago to clean it up, and he couldn't touch it because of the judges and the lawyers and the politicians that controlled the city and the corporate wealth that controlled that city. I was back there last year, and I'm around, and they had a conversation. It was a PhD that a Harvard person had written, and it was about how after World War I, the corporations decided at that time, they designed a specific program to move the corporate, the factories and the places of work really out into the suburbs. I used to think it was, they kind of designed the suburbs in that way, but it was a specific corporate reason to restrict a specific class of people into basically the slums, the east side, and the right downtown along the Cuyahoga River folks to that area and keep them out of the suburbs. And so I say this as, it was systematic, and I am a product of a privileged white class. It was designed specifically to promote me, to make this white person the CEOs, the managers, the engineers, and the people that really built this country. And that was how I was raised. And I think it affects a lot, and it goes to the root of a lot of the problems here in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Orly Booth, Birch Bay. As long as I was down here tonight, I thought, well, I might do a little advertising for our community. We're going to celebrate at Birch Bay. After a 10-year closure to the mouth of Terrell Creek, it has been reopened for shellfish harvest. That's 129 acres on the shoreline. With patience and perseverance working together, the wider Birch Bay community is making a significant difference in our little corner of the world. Those contributing to the improved water quality include Birch Bay Watershed and Aquatic Resource Management District, Whatcom County Public Works, Whatcom Conservation District, Chums of Terrell Creek, Nooksack Salmon Association, Whatcom County Marine Resources, BP Cherry Point Refinery, Environmental Protection Agency, Whatcom County Health Department, rural residents who properly operate septic systems, those who pick up pet waste, and those who use public restrooms on the shoreline of Birch Bay. I also want to let you know that we're celebrating a ribbon cutting for Jerry's Journey. In 2012, the Whatcom MRC and the Friends of Birch Bay State Park conceived the idea of developing an interpretive nature tour called Jerry's Journey at Birch Bay State Park. This project is partially supported by the funds bequeathed from former MRC member and Birch Bay resident Jerry Larson, with a goal to continue Jerry's pursuit of watershed and habitat improvements to Birch Bay. Also, I want to invite you this weekend to come out to Birch Bay. Come on out and fly a kite at our kite festival on the beach park.
One question. Are you going to have oysters?
We are having Ivar's 20 gallons of Ivar's clam chowder will be served with hot dogs. Taylor's shellfish. We tried to get oysters, but they couldn't collect enough in Drayton Harbor. So come on out. The information's on the poster. It's going to be a big event with a lot of Whatcom County agencies. Thank you.
Ms. Gillivan. And if there's anybody else who wishes to speak in the open public session, please line up.
Joy Gilfillan, President of the Restorative Community Coalition, last name spelt Gilfilen. I'm submitting a letter to the Whatcom County Council, request to partner with Whatcom County to apply for the $50,000 Urban Institute for Safety and Justice Challenge offered through the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. On May 14th, 2018, the Whatcom County Council referred the $50,000 Innovation Fund Challenge to the Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force for its members to consider. It seems like after discussion that this grant is too small for larger organizations, yet it would be outstanding if our coalition could have the opportunity to apply. The grant says it is an opportunity, quote, for justice agencies and local communities to implement bold and innovative ideas in order to reduce over-incarceration in jails and build capacity for future system change. They intend to form a, quote, network of jurisdictions at the forefront of a national movement to rethink the use of jail. What an outstanding opportunity for Whatcom County. Quote, jurisdictions that wish to contract with local partners to carry out some or all of the proposed innovation activities may apply with that partner and have the funds awarded directly to that partner if selected. Jurisdictions may submit more than one application under the solicitation, end quote. Our coalition has 3 different programs that could be submitted if Whatcom County was willing to partner and support our application. We are willing to do the grant writing. It's due June 15th. We have 3 different proposals. One is the direct services program. We have 5 harm reduction programs to support people involved in the Whatcom County justice and jail system. These include early interception, case management, peer-to-peer mentoring, life skills and court navigation support, and career enterprise coaching. The second program is a mental health recovery study. We have teamed up with a leading health research institute doing exceptional work in innovative functional neurology and restorative brain medicine. We are in the beginning stages of conducting a study specifically involving people who are at risk of recidivism due to behavioral health issues. Our study members would participate in 6 days of concentrated functional neurological care, and the study will be well documented and third-party statistically analyzed. The third program that we could apply for is justice system-involved case studies linked to systems mapping. Building off the Vera Institute's report systems mapping process, our coalition has been developing both a mapping process
30
analysis
seconds, please.
and a case study protocol to study the economic and traumatic effects of an arrest and jailing on the accused, their families, and the community. The goal is to mitigate damages caused to victims, any family members, and the community. We are seeking to determine the optimal point of interception in any situation that reduces costs to the county, improves results to the families, and improves public safety. An opportunity to partner with you is all we request.
Time.
Our innovative programs are on the leading edge of jail reform and would bring you honor. Thank you.
Ms. Brenner.
I guess my question is for Councilmember Buchanan or Byrd or whoever else. Have you guys considered that?
Do you mean the proposal or partnering with?
Well, both.
Based on what Ms. Gilfoyle said, I think we can partner with or submit multiple applications. So we could partner with multiple organizations if that's the case. If that is the case, I would make a motion that the county work with her organization as well, and we submit multiple applications.
Councilmember Buchanan, I want to hear from you
I'd like
too.
to, rather than vote on that right this second, I'd like to digest that a little bit.
Okay. I just want to, I mean, it
Ms.
sounds
Ms.
interesting.
Brenner, it's not appropriate for you to be calling speakers, deciding which council members get to talk.
I'm not calling, I'm asking questions of 2 council members. I'm allowed to do that. And that's all I did. I wasn't calling anybody.
Mr. Buchanan, did you have a comment? Okay, that's fine.
I'd just like to digest this, and there's some other things, some other ideas that are kind of being considered as well.
Right, okay.
But we'll certainly look into it.
Thank you very much. If there's no further comment for the open public session, we will close the open public comment period and move to finance. Mr. Siddhu.
Yes. Okay, the first few items are consent agenda, and items under this section of the agenda may be considered in a single motion. Council members have received and studied background materials on all items, and committee review has taken place on these items as indicated. Any member of the public, administrative staff, or council may ask that an item be considered separately. So there are items 1 through 4. I move for approval.
There's a motion to move for approval. It doesn't require a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Excuse me, number 4 is a substitute version.
You're perfectly right.
Yes, number 4 is the substitute version, and that's what we introduced, yes.
Which is the blue one.
That blue color.
Yep.
Yeah.
The blue. This one. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Okay. The next items from Finance and Administrative Services Committee are, number 1, ordinance amending Whatcom County budget, 7th request in the amount of $1,861,232, AB 2018-150. It received a vote 2 to 1, and I so move for approval.
Any discussion? Mr. Bird?
Can we pull out items out of this and vote on them separately? We can?
Well, you can make a motion to do
All
that.
right.
This is not consent
Not
agenda. We
consent.
can go through one by one, and
It's ordinances.
this is the first.
Talking about line items.
Out of the.
Oh, line item out of the
Supplemental
budget.
We have 1 through 13 here.
Well, yes, I mean, it's like anything else. I believe you can make a motion to withdraw an item.
I'd
If
like
you-
to vote on number 3 through 7 separately.
Okay, there's a motion to vote on number 3 through 7 separately. Let me just catch up with you.
Page 18.
Okay, so let me first move the rest of the items, then we'll come back to that, right? So,
Sorry, we need a second for that.
I'll second it.
Ms. Brenner moves the second. All in favour of removing those items, say aye.
aye?
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Siddhu.
So now I move the items 1, 2,
Point of order.
Brenner,
and then is
Do we
7.
need to vote?
Sorry, the process is let Mr. Sidhu speak and then,
You called my name.
okay. No, he's allowed to finish his statement and then,
So, Mr. Byrd, you want to remove item 3, 4, 5, and 6?
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So I move that we should vote on items 1, 2, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
okay, that's a motion to do that. Ms. Brenner, you had a
Me?
point of order.
I do have a question.
Madam Clerk.
To do these separately from each other would require 2 different ordinances. So you can move to amend to remove one of the items, and then it's removed, but does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Okay. I
So,
will,
no, sorry, I'm not clear. So we move to amend, which would remove them.
Correct, and that would
We'd
that would
vote on the
completely
remaining as
remove
an
them
order.
from the ordinance. You
Okay.
can't, because the ordinance is one document, you can't separate out items 7 through 9 and vote on those, because that, you need 2 different ordinances to split those out.
Okay, so that means we could vote on the remaining ones, but then we wouldn't be able to vote on the ones we took out.
Correct, so the correct motion would be, if Tyler doesn't want a piece included in this ordinance, he would move to amend to remove that item from the ordinance.
Okay, so where are we at with the motions? We've already moved to introduce, to vote on the ones that Mr. Sidhu did.
Correct.
It
So
sounds
really,
like
you should undo that
then we
motion.
need to
Move
who-
to rescind that motion
who
and
made that
start
motion?
over.
Who made that motion? Or it can be anybody who voted in the affirmative can remove it, can't they?
It can be either way.
Okay, so I move to to overturn that last decision. Do I have a second? Mr. Donnan moves to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour?
What are you moving, sorry?
To restore it back to the original form.
We're hitting reset and starting.
Oh, reset, okay. When in doubt, reboot.
So we are overturning our last decision.
Not that red button.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favour say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? None. Okay. So that's 7-0. We're restoring back to the original. So then it might be easier for a discussion if we do these sequentially. So I'd like to suggest if you've got something you want to remove individually, that you make a motion to amend that. Would that be the correct procedure? Right. So, for example, Mr. Bird, if you want to remove items 2 and 3, let's deal with 2 first separately, and then let's deal with 3.
I'm sorry, aren't you saying we have to vote on this entire document as it is? Or I can remove items from this document with a motion, but it has to stay? It's not that we're
Correct.
voting each one.
Correct.
Correct.
And if you remove something and we later want to approve it, we have to do it as a new ordinance, is what the clerk is saying.
Yes, if the council voted to remove an item from this ordinance and wanted to bring it back at a later date, it would take another ordinance to do that.
I will move to remove items 3 through 7 from this ordinance.
Okay, and for the sake of procedure, I would like to ask you to amend that to just removing items 2 to start with. Let's deal with that one. And then if you want to deal with 3 and then 4 and then.
Oh, you want me to do them individually? Okay.
I think that would be a cleaner way. Would you agree, Madam Clerk?
Yes, because then if there are people that agree with you on one of the 4 that you're asking to remove, you might get some of those pieces removed. Does that make sense?
It does.
If
I
you do
I
it
have
one
the
at a
same
time.
reasoning for all of them, so I'm okay with doing them all, but
The question
Mr.
I
Siddhu.
had in mind, which I think Dana has answered, is that if I second it, you have to explain why you want to remove, and then we have to vote. Do we agree with you or not? You cannot just say, remove these items, let's vote on rest. You have to get the other people to agree with you to
understand.
removal. So that's why you move one item, we second it, then you explain why you want to remove, and then we'll vote for that. Do we want to remove or not?
I'm going to keep my motion as it is. My explanation is the same for all of them. I move to remove items 3 through 7. I will give the same explanation. That will save us time. Will someone second?
Okay, so there's a motion to items 3
Okay.
through 7, is that it?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favour of removing items 3 for
No,
second?
aren't we allowed to ask him why? I thought he was
He's-
going to explain why.
He's
Sorry.
Explain to him.
You're correct, we should have discussion. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Mr. Bird, you have the floor.
I'm asking for these items to be removed for a very specific reason. These items are items that are for the Health Department and the new Human Services Supervisor position. It's essentially taking funds, based on how I understand it, that is an increase in revenue we'll be getting from the state, which is around $700,000, and applying it to hire a new position in the Health Department. My feeling on this, and the reason I'm opposed to this, is because this position will help with essentially the homeless issue and homelessness housing and supplying more support towards that. It will help with that through the increase of staff at the health department. For us to set and essentially approve, give or take $400,000 in additional funding for this, when at the exact same time we have an organization called Homes Now that is looking at the county saying, hey, we can come to the table with no taxpayer dollars, 100% supported by donations. All we need is a piece of property, and we have a solution that statistically shows across multiple sources to be far more effective than anything else that we're looking at. I don't understand. How do we approve spending $400,000 for something that we know versus giving these guys an opportunity? My preference would be that we put this money to the side. We give Homes Now an opportunity to do a trial tiny home program. We monitor the data and the statistics, after which time we can look at both programs and we can assess which one actually provides the best value to our community based on the data. And from there, we can allocate the funds versus just throwing money at something we're already doing.
Ms. Brennan and Mr. Dolan.
Maybe Jack or Tyler could answer this. It was my understanding that that would be, could be and would be some of the functions of this person or people, whoever it is we hire, to be doing that kind of stuff. You talked about what we need, and my concern is that, you know, if we don't have the people to do it, it isn't going to happen. Well, here we have the director of the health department.
Yes, Regina Delahunt, Public Health Director. So what we have in these supplemental requests, we have approximately $330,000 for 2018. Of that, $275,000 is being put towards services in the community. The problem we have at the health department, and the reason that we're asking for additional staff, is that our revenues, our housing revenues in particular, have gone up significantly since 2015. Between 2015, we had $2.5 million in revenue, in housing revenue. We're estimating by 2021, with this new funding, we'll have over $7 million in revenue. We have one staff person that's taking care of that amount of money. And there are so many requirements and so much monitoring and contracts. We have over 20 housing contracts and probably double that number in housing programs that we support. So we really cannot continue to get the money out into the community without the additional staffing.
So is that a yes on my question?
Your question was?
It would be inclusive of the homes now and that we've talked
Well,
about.
I mean, there's a potential that some of the revenues could go towards programs of that nature, right? So only a very small amount of this money is actually going towards health department staffing, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Donovan.
I was going to speak against the motion. I think the director just made most of my points, but I would agree with Mr. Bird's statement that he doesn't understand this, that it is not a trade-off between us giving Homes Now an opportunity, and I think we spent a lot of time in this afternoon session and other meetings trying to make opportunities for organizations like that. It's not a zero-sum thing, and I hope everybody opposes the motion.
Mr. Bird.
So the potential that they may get money is very different than this is set up to where a certain amount of funds would go to their program, one. And two, I'm not saying that we should be giving them money per se. What I'm saying is that we have another opportunity to look at a creative solution to a very difficult problem that our community is dealing with. We have an additional amount of revenue that is coming in from our state at this time. Instead of being anxious just to get out there and to budget and spend the money that we have coming in, I would like to take a pause and wait and to assess the different solutions and to look at creative solutions that are out there and say, are there better opportunities for us to spend this money in the future? I think that we have time, and I think that there is the potential to have a far bigger impact and more benefit to our community in the long run if we wait.
Ms. Delahunter, just before you do, I'd just like you to include in your comments just a discussion about the success of the current programs.
Exactly. What I wanted to make sure that you all understood was that we do have a homeless housing advisory committee, and we work very, very closely with the community. We have a strategic plan for ending homelessness in Whatcom County, and all of the programs and all of the resources that we use are aimed at ending homelessness, aimed at that strategic plan, and are done with the blessing of this advisory committee. What we're doing in this supplemental budget request is really making the appropriations available. There will be contracts that come to the council in order for us to spend, to actually contract with people in the community, the additional $302,000 that are being appropriated in this supplemental budget. If it's not appropriated, we can't even enter into contracts. We can't do anything because it's not in our budget. This is placing the money in our budget so that we can then move forward with programming and contracting, which you all see.
Ms. Brenner.
And I think the answer was yes, but I want to just make sure. And that would include figuring out the pros and cons and everything of the safe lockers and the tiny homes and how we could make that work.
I mean, that's, you know, something that you're working on with the planning committee.
So that is
right.
included in what, okay.
Yeah. Generally, what we do spend the county resources on are additional supportive services. Case management services is generally what we do spend the county funds. Case management services. Okay. So, for example, if you take Francis Place, we provide funding for case managers to work with the people that are living at Francis Place to allow them to retain their housing and to help them with other issues that they might have, mental health, substance abuse. So that's generally what we spend our dollars on. We like to use the county dollars or the dollars that we get for Whatcom County on that, because we can then leverage some of the federal money that actually pays for housing vouchers. But we definitely have a shortage of case management dollars in this community. So in all likelihood, a lot of those dollars would go towards case management.
Mrs. Delahunt, if I may, I am, if you could just confirm for me whether the following is true. My understanding is that a lot of the issues facing those experiencing homelessness are complex and overlapping, that your program is following national best practices, and the staff that are delivering it are accredited with the appropriate degrees in sociology or social work, etc.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Brenner.
So it would include case management, which seems like it would include placing people in housing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm fine with that then.
Mr. Bird.
Just for clarification, over the last couple of years, homelessness is getting worse in our community, correct?
Yes, most
Okay.
definitely.
So what we're doing today with all of these people with great degrees isn't necessarily working at the same rate that homelessness is increasing. So is it not time to try some different solutions to the same problem versus doing the exact same thing over and over again? Adding more case managers. We have case managers. Do we just keep throwing more case managers at it, or do we look at other solutions?
Mr. Donovan.
Call the question.
Question has been called, non-debatable. All in favour of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. That passes 6-1 with Ms. Brenner opposed. We're now on to the question about removing all these. The vote now is whether we remove items 3 through 7 and continue with the rest of the ordinance. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
That fails 6-1 with Mr. Bird opposed. We now have the full ordinance in front of us, and if the clerk would please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
No.
Todd Donovan, Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Affirmative. Just to mix it up.
What'd you say?
Affirmative.
Oh.
I think I should start using Punjabi here.
As long as you translate, that's fine. Just to the point of Madam Clerk, my sheet lists Brenner, Brown, Buchanan, Donovan, Mann, Siddhu, and Weimer.
I'll go get him.
You go get him.
I'll see you later.
Clerk is aware of the error.
It said
All right. It does.
Okay, the next item is ordinance establishing the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Special Revenue Fund, AB 2018-151. It received a 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move.
There's a motion that was moved in committee. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner.
So what we voted was not to take it off, we didn't vote to.
We have voted on
Okay.
this ordinance completely. We're on to the next topic. Any further discussion on the ordinance establishing a Mental Health and Development Disabilities Special Revenue Fund? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan, Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Aye.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Next item up,
Okay,
Mr.
the next item is ordinance closing the Potter Road South Fork Bridge number 148, Replacement Project Fund 342, AB 2018-152. It received a 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move.
It's been moved in committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Todd Donovan, Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird, whoops.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Okay, the next item is ordinance closing 2015 County Roadways Safety Program Fund 355 AB 2018-153. It received a 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move for approval.
It's been moved, doesn't require a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Tim Baloo,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
That passes 7-0.
Okay, the next item is ordinance closing the Cedar Hills Euclid Stormwater Improvement Project Fund 367, AB 2018-154. It received a 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move for approval.
Been moved for approval, doesn't require a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Tim Baloo,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan, Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
The next item is the request approval for the county executive to authorize the purchase using Washington State contract number 00816 of a replacement lowboy trailer from vendor Pape Machinery, Inc. in the amount of $89,526.76 from May 8th committee meeting, AB 2018-144. It received a 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move for approval.
Moved for approval. I think it did it receive 3-0 or 2?
No, it was 2-1.
Sorry, I had it wrong. 2-1, sorry.
2-1 from the committee still doesn't require a second. Any discussion? Mr. Bird.
Okay. All right, so here's where I'm at with this. I feel like our obligation and the reason that we're elected is to be kind of fiscal stewards of the taxpayers' money. And I think that in the last 4 or 5 months, I've been going back through in my head and thinking of all of the finance committees and all of the things that have come before us. And I can't think of a single time that this council has voted down anything. And what bothers me is I feel like, and this is no offense to anyone here, so please no one take this directed at them individually, but I feel like we're here rubber stamping things that come through. And this is a perfect example of that. When I look at this, let me break this down. $89,500 to purchase a new trailer to pull backhoes and other heavy-duty devices. In the first 10 years of owning this trailer, we spent $65,469. We have owned this trailer for 25, 26 years. In the last 10 years of owning this trailer, we have spent $65,983 in maintenance expenses. The 10 years in the beginning versus the 10 years at the end is a difference of $500. If we spend $89,000 to purchase a new one, we can expect to spend another $65,000 in the first year. Our savings is $500. I don't understand how this is a good purchase or a good use of taxpayer money at this time. So I'm voting no.
Would Mr. Hutchings like to respond to this?
John Hutchings, Public Works Director. And let me just say out loud that I appreciate the fact that you're asking the questions, because it is important for us to be able to articulate clearly the value that the public gets from these investments. I think the take-home message, Councilmember Byrd, is the trailer about which we're proposing to replace is 26 years old. And over the course of those 26 years old, that piece of machinery is asked to haul around bulldozers, D9s, those sorts of things from the shop out to the place that that equipment is used out in the field. It travels county roads on a daily basis during the summertime when that work is being done, so old backhoes, all manner of equipment. And of course, our principal responsibility is to keep that equipment moving in a fashion that is safe and cost-effective. And the fact of the matter is that over time, equipment wears out. Over time, the steel that makes that equipment safe is stressed, cracks, and you can see in that list of repairs that there has been decking replaced. There have been a number of structural repairs to that piece of equipment. The bottom line is that at some point in the lifetime of any piece of equipment, we have to make a decision when it's most cost-effective and when the public is best served by a replacement. Now, there's a line on that table that calls out 15 years as the preferred replacement period. That 15 years is established in a document that Public Works prepares, that has prepared, and I think it was reviewed the last time back in 2012, in which the administration reviewed all of the replacement schedules for this equipment. Now, I will own up to the fact that the replacement schedules for trailers and the like is far less certain than it is for equipment that has a bigger market. So, of course, fleet vehicles, there's lots and lots of statistics about sedans and sheriff's vehicles and those sorts of things. There's a fair amount of information available about replacing backhoes and dump trucks and those sorts of things. When you get down to equipment like this, it is a little less certain. However, the folks who do this business recognized that 15 years seemed to be the appropriate time frame for replacement, and it's also the point in time in which the contribution, the rental rate for replacement was established to meet the replacement cost, right? So for each piece of equipment that we purchase for use for rent out to the various departments, the various users of that equipment, we charge a replacement rate for every piece of equipment, bar the ferry, which you should ask a question about that one day too. Perhaps not tonight. The point here, though, is that those replacement charges accrue over time, and they're intended to accrue at a rate that offsets the depreciation of that piece of equipment until we have enough money accrued to replace it, and that replacement accrual should match the amount of time that the analysis shows that equipment is replaced for other reasons, for failure, for increased reinvestment in it. So there's far more to it than simply the question of how much we are reinvesting over time in the maintenance costs, although I give you, in most applications, one would expect to see that reinvestment increase over time. So let me just leave it at that. I have heard over the course of the last 6 months or so your line of questioning and taken it seriously. We in the ER&R program are looking again at our replacement protocols and making sure that we can articulate better why the public is best served by making these replacements when we propose them. So I expect that you will keep asking these questions, and you can expect that we will have better answers going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Siddhu, and then Ms. Brenner.
You know, I've been looking at the same. I've been looking at the same. I was going through this thing, and I have a little bit of experience in these heavy machineries and things. I think the decision which the council made in 2008, that was the reasoning at that time. Why you want to spend money on it? You can put money in repair and keep it running. Then probably 3 years later, same thing the council did. That we are now talking 26 years later, it's in our turn that it has come for replacement, and we can easily say that, why don't you use it for another 5 years? and keep going that. I mean, this issue has been, it was $95,000 at 15 years. And I remember 2008 was when the economic downturn came, and probably, I'm just guessing, I don't know, probably money was really, really tight, and everybody said, just do with what you have. So the council members at different times, in their own best ability, do look at the county's public dollars. I don't like the statement, blanket statement that, oh, county council members are totally derelict in their duty to looking at the public dollars and they're not responsibly acting. Yes, the county executive is the administrative person in my mind, and he and the administrative staff should do that. We should question it. I totally agree with you that we should question that, but the onus of doing these reviews and everything and day to day is the decision making, which is the burden on the county executive and his team, not on the council. Our main thing is the policy. Of course, the money is very important, and we must be very frugal and must question these things. And this is how, when I got this a few days back, I was looking at it, and that's how I was saying, oh, if I was on the council probably 10 years ago, I would have said, it's better to spend money, go buy a new one, just because we spent a fortune on it, just keeping it.
Ms. Brenner, and then I'd like Mr. Hutchings to come back.
Well, I do appreciate Dr. Hutchings' answer, and it gives me confidence. But, and I have voted against items, and I'm going to be voting against this one because I look at it really differently, and we all have our own perspective. My husband has a real job, but he also welds and bought a used trailer many years ago, and a lowboy, and he's kept it in great, and we take that, we live just north of Bellingham, and we take that all the way up to Mosquito Lake Road and back all the time. And we have an M&O department that is a full-time fix-the-stuff department, unlike my husband. He's not full-time doing it. And I think it's very manageable. It's not like more complex items, tools, equipment like sedans and all that. I'm a little less confident about saying no on some of those things. But this one I really do feel like, I don't know why it's, I think we ought to look into why it's costing the county so much to do these things. Because, you know, welding is welding, and I'm not sure what else, you know, you could get materials at Z Recycling too. I'm just saying that I look at this really differently, and maybe the county can't operate like real people.
Yeah, perhaps one observation might help clarify how this fits into our into the work we do. If this piece of machinery breaks down, it goes to the shop. We order the stuff to fix it. Meanwhile, our work ceases for that day, perhaps the next day, until we either find a rental machine that we can use to replace the out-of-service machine, or we get it fixed. So, you know, there's a criticality of this, of being able to move heavy equipment around the county. We have one of these. We don't have a replacement. We don't have two of them sitting out at the shop. We have one. We need to keep it working. And yes, they cost a lot to maintain. If you go through that list, you'll see just replacing a set of tires and tubes on that thing that happens on average every 2 years costs about $5,000, $6,000. So, and brake pads and the like. So, you know, the bottom line is, honestly, we revisit this question of when the appropriate time is to replace all manner of vehicles and equipment. We revisit this as administration and the council on a pretty regular basis. And we go around and around and around those questions because it is very difficult to get our minds around the fact that there's a secondary market for this stuff. There is an economic reason for taking advantage of moving equipment and vehicles into that secondary market where we get the most money for it, and then we can replace it with equipment that works, that we don't have to keep a shop full of employees, shop full of mechanics that cost a lot of money at $100,000 a piece or something like that, to keep those people employed, and as a result end up costing the taxpayers more money on that side of things. So I'm not interested in getting in an argument today. I just want to let you know that, as you do, that we've been around this many, many times, and we will continue in the future. So let me just say that, the proposition is there for a reason. The folks that deal with this want to keep their programs working. They want to keep the chip seal getting laid down on the road and being as effective as they can. They want to make sure that this piece of equipment doesn't end up breaking and causing some disruptions in service, and they feel that this is what it's going to take to get them done, and get that done, and that's why it's in front of you today.
So myself and then Mr. Bird and then Ms. Brenner. So these numbers, I'm assuming, don't include lost productivity or the rental replacement rentals. What is the resale value of this item at the moment?
I have no idea.
Best guess?
Not much.
If I tell you, it will be wrong.
Yeah.
And is it safe to assume that parts are getting hard to find?
In fact, the memo, I think, calls some attention to that, yes.
Okay. So my point was, what's the resale value if the parts are no longer available? I think I know the answer to that question. It's zero.
I have a sense of that.
In fact, it might even be negative because you might have to.
You want to buy it?
Yeah. No. But my point is, if it is no longer functional, you might actually have to pay someone to take it away. So, Mr. Bird.
Yeah. This would be easier for me to buy into. Is it really doctor? It
is really doctor. Oh. Yeah, I thought they were supposed to give us some air conditioning.
But don't go.
Yeah, okay.
Between you and me, that's Dr. Dirt.
Mr. Hutchings, I have an immense amount of respect for you. And I mean, the tour that I did and the crew that you have, I think that they're fantastic, and the work that you're doing, I think, is fantastic. And this is no reflection of that. This is this. If the expenses, when I looked at this, if I saw that in the last 10 years, that the expenses were trending upwards, and every year it was breaking down more and more, and that it was increasing at some sort of scale, then I could buy into that. But when I look at this and I see that the expenses in the last 10 years are the same as the expenses in the first 10 years, what that tells me is that we can buy a brand new one, and from what I can tell, year one was a partial year of ownership. Year two, the repair pony motor broke down and the cranking system broke down and it went out of service. Year 5 on here, which would have been kind of year 4, the rear suspension went down, the trailer frame and support had problems, and the walking beam bushings had to be replaced. And it went out of service. So even if we buy a brand new one today, it's still going to be going out of service based on what the history of this one has told us. In addition to that, we're going to have the exact same expenses as if we held and kept this one. And to Councilmember Siddhu's point, if this wasn't our job, and if it was only the executive's job, then it would never come to us. It's our job to oversee this and to manage this as well with them, and not just to okay it. It's our job to be that checks and balances on this issue and to make sure that we are in the right spot. And I take that very seriously, obviously. I look at this and it's a small amount of money. It's $100,000. But $100,000 when we're dealing with the presentation that we were given today, we're $50 million deficit in capital expenditures on projects in the next couple of years that we can't make up. I mean, we're across the board trying to find money for projects. We have no money to build a jail. We have no money to repair this building, the State Street building, the morgue. I mean, countless projects. why would we just throw away money on this when we don't necessarily need to? Given my points. And I'd like to touch on one other thing Councilmember Siddhu said, which was in 2008 that they voted to, based on the same thought process, to basically kick it down the road because it could last a couple more years. Heck yeah, they did. And look at the data. It was a fantastic decision. In the next 3 years, they spent $18,000 instead of $85,000. If they kicked it down the road 3 years after that, they spent $13,000 instead of $85,000. I mean, it was a good decision back then, and it's lasted another 10 years, and it saved us $85,000 over the last 10 years. It's a good decision now. If next year or this year and the next 2 years, it starts breaking down and you come back and it's $12,000 every year instead of every fourth year, great, I get it. It's falling apart, we'll replace it. But right now, it's regular maintenance that's the exact same as it's been the entire life of the equipment. I don't see why we replace it.
Mr. Lowes, and just before you start, I just looked up the price of a used one of these trailers, and my best guess is it's about $30,000. So.
Could be. I'd just like to remind the council that the council has approved the replacement of this trailer through the last budget. The reason that we're here is that we estimated that we had $82,500 was the budget for it, and we're at $88,000. And through the purchasing policy, we need to come back to the council when we have and exceed the 10% allowance that we have of what we presented in the budget for that. Just as a reminder, we spent $45,000 on approximately $45,000 on it when we bought it. We've spent $164,000 since then. I would be and am concerned with stress fractures and so on and so forth in trailers like that. The challenge that we have if we fix something and we fix it wrong, then we end up being in more of a liability situation. And also, I think that it's very good for us to keep a reasonable and an appropriate replacement vehicle schedule in front of us so that we don't get to the point down the road that we're there. I respectfully disagree with you. You respectfully disagree with me. That's fine. But I just wanted to let the council know is that this is something that has been gone through once. The decision to replace the trailer was made in the last budget, whether everybody agreed with it or not. What we're here tonight for is for an extra $4,500 authority, and I think that we've probably discussed it, and it's looking forward to your decision. Thank you.
Mr. Donovan and then Ms. Brenner.
Just a point, the members of the Finance Committee, we all go to the Finance Committee meetings. I enjoy this conversation. I really wish we'd fleshed that out more in committee, as well as the previous discussion. Just an observation, I guess.
Brenner.
Well, me too, but here we are. And it seems to me if these are our decisions, we have the right to change our mind as a council, whether we want to continue down this way or not. And so I think saying, well, this was budgeted for doesn't make it okay to do it if some of us don't believe that it's necessary.
Mr. Chair, call the question.
Question has been called. It's non-debatable. All in favour of calling the question, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Were you a yes or no, Mr. Birch?
I'm a yes.
That passes 6-1 with Ms. Brenner opposed. And then this is a resolution, correct?
Yes.
It's
a
just
request
approval
for
of a
approval.
request.
Right, okay, fine. So all in favour of approving the request, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
That passes 5-2 with Mr. Bird and Ms. Brenner opposed. Next item up is still back to finance.
Yeah, there is no other item.
Planning and development.
We didn't have anything to vote on.
Planning and development.
No requests.
Oh, there was one more item.
Request
added.
authorization for the county executive to enter into contract amendment number 2
Yes.
between Whatcom County and the, do you want to read that? Or do you want me to continue?
One more item that was added. Just a second.
That is the lime green document? Yep. Do you want to read that into the record, Mr. Siddhu?
I don't have it here. I don't know. What did I do? It was green, I believe. Oh, yes. Thank you, sir. Okay, the next item is request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract amendment number 2, between Whatcom County and the County Road Administration Board to allow the county to receive additional rural arterial program grant funding for the East Smith Road pavement rehabilitation project, Everson Goshen Road to SR 542, AB 208-164. It received 3-0 vote in the committee, and I so move for approval.
So just for the record, we did not discuss this in committee today. So if there's any, if you could just pass it back to me. So is there any discussion? Oh,
There was discussion of this item in committee today.
Yep.
Correct?
It was, yep.
so not on the agenda.
I remember that.
Okay, all right. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item up is planning and development. Mr. Bird,
We didn't have anything voted on.
do you want to explain what you did today?
Oh, sure. Today we looked at different property for, that would be available potentially here inside the city limits for the storage facilities for homelessness. And so doing storage lockers where they could get their mail and store items during the day, as well as we considered and looked at an ordinance similar to the one that Bellingham has put forward for their emergency ordinance with dealing with homelessness and looking at how we could work with the tiny home programs and organizations such as Homes Now to kind of create a more creative solution to that problem. We moved forward with that, and we will be considering or reviewing that ordinance and trying to make it our own so we can approve it at a later date.
Thank you. And then from the Special Committee of the Whole, we had an ordinance establishing the Whatcom County Code, Chapter 2.16, creating the Whatcom County Business and Advisory Committee. And in this case, we are looking at the purple version, which I'm not sure I have.
Yep. Is this the amended one?
Yep. So the purple version, and this is the amended version. All right. Is there any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Just, I want to ask staff, were the changes significant? And it's an ordinance, so I was wondering, isn't it an ordinance?
I checked with legal, and they are not significant enough to require another introduction.
Yep, yeah, that's fine. You can just pass it back. Any further discussion? Seeing, sorry, Mr. Bird.
I'm not seeing the ag or energy added to this. Am I missing it under section C?
Oh, and that is my mistake, because I talked to the clerk and I just remembered I forgot to mention it. So you can throw me under the bus, not her.
So is that, I don't think it is, but maybe Karen could tell us.
There were
if
two
that's
additional
significant.
positions. The request was to add 2 additional positions, one for representing agriculture and one representing the energy industry. I think expanding the number of different people is not significant myself, but
I don't think this is a change that requires us to go through the whole process of introduction again.
right.
So
And also, but the change from, we already, it's okay without another hearing for the non-voting and voting. That was
This
fine.
didn't require a hearing.
Okay.
Sure. Just for clarification, if we approve this, we're approving it with those changes we
Yes.
voted on earlier,
Yes.
even though
Can you
they're-
please,
Definitely.
can you make that additional change
All
for
right,
the
so,
record, since it's not in this?
Yeah.
So for the record, under membership, section C, there is category 8 and category 9. Category 8 is agriculture, and category 9 is energy industry. And the committee shall be composed of a total of 17 members, 17 voting members. No, 17.
And all public.
17 members, sorry.
Have the part about all public representatives are non-voting?
Yes, that's in the copy.
Okay.
I think that is in there already.
The clerk clear on that? So let me restate it to be clear. So in section A, under membership, if we can just avoid side conversations. Under section A, membership, the committee shall be composed of 17 instead of 15, and then the word voting is struck, members. And then under section C of the same section, there's 8 is agriculture and 9 is energy industry. Are we clear? All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please, Mr. Bird?
Oh, I just wanted to add that as it stands here, I'm actually really excited about this. I think that it gives business a much-needed voice and will hopefully bring some a better dynamic and relationship to the table, and I'm excited we're doing this.
Right. Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Tyler Bird.
Yes.
Todd Donovan. Satpal Siddhu.
Yes.
Tim Baloo.
Yes.
That passes
I
unanimously.
had a quick question for Dana.
Siddhu.
Can you put this thing on so that they can accept applications, or is there another process for that?
I will be working with Nadine this
Okay.
week to get that taken care of.
Okay, I think your intent was for us to vote on applications at the next meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I.
Oh, that's I don't think that's going to give enough people time to apply even.
That would be a really tight time frame.
Okay,
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible, that's fine.
See what you can do, and if you need 4 weeks, let us know. All right. Special Committee of the Whole, we had direction on the comprehensive plan amendments requested by Council through Resolution 2018-015 relating to the Cherry Point Urban Growth Area. This was a discussion, it was a continuing discussion, and no action was taken. Then the next item up is an appointment of 1 council member to serve on the Whatcom County Lake Whatcom Stormwater Utility Advisory Committee as a non-voting representative. Is there a volunteer? Mr. Buchanan.
I nominate Councilmember Donovan.
I second it.
Mr. Donovan's been nominated.
Yes, I look forward to it.
All right.
He'll vote for it.
Any other nominations? We can hold an election if you want.
Hurry up so he doesn't change his
All
mind.
right. Seeing no other nominations, all in favour of Mr. Donovan, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, that passes 7-0. Next item up is a resolution amending Resolution 2017-045 to revise the County Council meeting state schedule for 2018.
I move
AB 20,
approval.
Ms. Brenner moves approval. Any second? Mr. Donovan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item up is council appointments to boards, commissions and committees. An appointment to the Whatcom County Planning Commission, partial term ending January 31st, 2021, representing District 1. Applicants are Tony Freeland and Kimberly Lund. And this was from May 8th, and on May 8th, we were deadlocked, 6-6.
3-3.
3-3, you're absolutely right.
14 council members.
Yeah. It's a good thing, you see why they took me off finance. We were deadlocked, so we'll take another vote. So,
Have Tim vote.
well, I think,
Said you guys get the right to change your mind if you'd like to.
Change their mind, that's right.
fine, so we'll take the vote again. So, all in favour of Freeland, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Yeah, one.
Yes, okay, sorry. And Mr. Bird has asked for discussion, so, Mr. Bird.
This is another one that bothers me. This is a very, in my mind, political play. I mean, you have Mr. Freeland that doesn't have any affiliation with any group that I'm aware of, has an immense amount of experience in this very subject, has a ton of individuals who have called and endorsed him from throughout the community. He has come to the table and said, not only does he have the experience, but he has a ton of free time, and he actually is looking forward to doing this. And then you have someone that has zero experience doing all of this, that's just a part of a special interest political group that is going to be appointed to a seat that she has zero experience in. And to me, that's a tough one to swallow. I don't think we're doing what's right when it comes to the community.
Any further discussion? Mr. Donovan.
I was just looking at our general meeting rules about making personal, impertinent, slanderous remarks about people coming from the audience. Well, I mean, to say that somebody who actually has experience has absolutely no experience and represents a special interest just because it's not your preferred person, I think is highly insulting. I would be insulted if I was that person, and I think you're insulting the people who might support that candidate.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Barry Buchanan,
Lund.
Tim Ballou,
Lund.
Barbara Brenner,
Freeland.
Rudd Brown,
Lund.
Todd Donovan,
Fund.
Tyler Bird,
Freeland.
Paul Siddhu,
Freeman.
That passes 4 for Lund and 3 for Freeland. And Lund is appointed. Okay, next item up is introduction items. And did
I
we
move
have,
approval.
Ms. Brenner
Oh,
moves
and
approval?
with the addition of the other, yeah.
So we have 2 other additional items, which is an ordinance amending Whatcom County Code 8.11 Solid Waste Recycling and Collection District and Whatcom County Code 8.10 Solid Waste and Residential Recycling Collection. Ms. Brenner, could we avoid side conversations when I'm making an announcement?
Huh?
Could we avoid, in accordance with the rules, could we avoid side conversations? I think the rule is
It said
meeting,
unnecessary.
decorum
This
of
was
debate,
necessary.
decorum of debate, section E. So let's go back and start this again. So an ordinance amending, the 2 introduction items are the ordinance amending Whatcom County Code 8.11 Solid Waste Recycling and Collection District and Whatcom County Code 8.10 Solid Waste and Residential Recycling Collection regarding solid waste collection in Point Roberts. And the second is an ordinance adopting amendments to the Whatcom County Code, Title 2, Administration and Personnel, Title 9, Public Peace and Morals and Welfare, Title 15, Building and Construction, Title 16, Environment, Title 20, Zoning, Title 21, Land Division Regulations, Title 23, Soil Land Management Program, Title 24, Health, and creating a new Title 22, Land Use and Development Procedures to relocate and revise procedures for land use and development-related project permits and legislative actions. Do I have a motion to...
Move
we had
approval.
We moved
Move
approval.
introduction.
Moved,
Move
so,
to introduce.
Mr. Bird moves to introduce, Ms. Brenner,
Second.
Mr. Donovan seconds. All in favour say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Except we just passed something about solid waste.
I figured that was the French-Canadian
I saw that.
aspect. Additional reports from Committee of the Whole. I'm trying to think if there's anything we didn't cover. Not that I can think of. Any? No. Nothing we haven't already covered. Anything else from Finance and Administrative Services?
Yes, we had a meeting, and first we had a county executive's report, and he offered all the projects which are coming up for the budget, as well as welcomed all the council members to bring out their priorities for the next biennium budget and communicate or work on those so that they can be discussed. The next one was that we had a presentation from the Domestic Commission on Against Domestic Violence. Susan Parker was here, and she gave an overview of their work. And the third item was that we had a report from Finance Manager Brad Bennett about the first quarter. And our revenues are up, and sales tax is growing, and we were quite a bit on the target what we budgeted. That's all.
That's all. Public Works and Health Committee, Ms. Brenner.
We had a little more discussion on the solid waste situation up at Point Roberts, and we recommended scheduling it for a hearing, and it's on for introduction tonight.
All right. Criminal Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a presentation by Darlene Peterson. She is the court administrator for the Bellingham Municipal Court. She gave us some highlights of some of their efforts for prevention of incarceration. And one of the things she spoke of was the electronic home monitoring system. And just two of the big highlights are in 2016, there were 212 defendants from the city. They completed serving their sentences on home monitoring, and they served more than 3,090 days. The city's cost for that was $14,000 basically, but the cost, should they have had to be in jail at the $98 per day rate, would have been $303,000. In 2017, there was 332 defendants with the same thing, serving their sentences with electronic home monitoring, and they served more than 8,900 days. The city supplemented that at a cost of about $90,000, but the savings of not sending them to jail at a rate of $108 a day was $967,000. So some pretty big savings that the city found by going with this electronic home monitoring. We also had a discussion about surveys. Councilmember Byrd presented a quote sheet from a company that does some survey work. The outcome was that Councilmember Byrd is going to look into the purchasing policy and work with finance and look at maybe approaching at least 3 companies to get some more data. End of report.
Thank you very much.
You got anything to add to that? Yeah. No.
Mr. Byrd, Planning and Development.
Actually, I would add something.
Yeah.
Did you mention that we're going to put out an RFP on it? Did I miss that? Okay.
No, well, not exactly. Didn't use those words.
Oh, okay, all right. I would add that on June 19th, I've invited Lehigh to come. It's the Low Income Housing Institute. They haven't put together a tiny home projects across the country, and they will be giving us a presentation on the data behind those programs and what they found to be successful and to not be successful, and what we can be looking at as far as kind of best practices when it comes to that. It'll be around 3 o'clock, I think, that day.
Good, thank you. Ms. Brenner.
I just want to add to that there already exists in Washington State, it's Thurston County, nonprofit, working with a nonprofit created, it's not a religious organization, although I totally support religious organizations putting in these tiny homes. But this one is not, so it is legal to do it with any nonprofit that would qualify. And it's called the Quixote Village, and it's in Olympia. And it just sounds amazing. If you guys have a chance, look it up go online. And if I can find it, anybody can find it, because I'm pretty low tech. So it's an amazing accomplishment, and I hope that we end up doing something like that.
All right. Nothing else from Special Committee of the Whole. Other items?
No.
Councilman, Mr. Byrd.
Because I'm on a roll. Yeah. So everyone else read from this tonight, so I'm going to read from it too. Number H, to bring a question to immediate vote, a council member may move to close debate.
The motion to close debate should be used in moderation, as members cannot be expected to maintain interest in an organization if they are frequently denied the right to participate in its deliberations.
Yeah, I
We
guess that
used
was
that
left
twice
out.
tonight, and we seem to be using it at every single meeting. And I know that our viewpoints might be different than some others, but I don't think that we're using it maybe as this has been described.
Moderation.
Further, other items?
Updates?
Councilmember updates. Mr. Buchanan.
Got nothing.
Mr. Bellew. Mr. Bird. Ms. Brenner.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Highway 20 is open, you guys. My husband and I decided to take a ride over to Winthrop, the quick way. We did it before the other way, and it took for all day. This was such a beautiful ride. We almost got to Winthrop, and there's this little place called Mazama that I had never even heard of, and we thought, well, let's go check it out. So it's about 15 miles short of Winthrop, I think, and it's pretty amazing. It's this little hole-in-the-wall area that's just gorgeous. The whole trip was beautiful, and we got back just as the sun was setting. So it's definitely worth it. You go there, go east on Highway 20 and check all that stuff out. It's so beautiful.
Mr. Long.
Yeah, I was in Mazama a couple of weeks ago before the pass opened up, and it took about 6 hours to go around there.
I bet.
Good, it's open. Quick update on the Incarceration Reduction and Prevention Task Force stuff that Councilmember Buchanan and I have been attending. We're making progress on a supplemental budget request. I guess it's come from both Superior Court and District Court to fund a risk assessment tool that'll be an alternative for judges to have an alternative besides bail in terms of keeping people pre-trial out. And so you'll see that coming, and there's probably going to be a slightly bigger hit when it comes to actually then having a FTE to do the pretrial services to deal with people who are not going to be in jail pre-trial.
Save us money.
It will save us money, but I'm just encouraging people to keep an eye out for that.
Mr. Siddhu.
Yeah, on Sunday, there was a homeless summit at the Maritime Heritage Park. There were probably a couple of hundred people, I believe, and we brought food, and we have a program that every month we attend the summit and bring free food for all the people. So it was a great experience. And on Monday morning, I went to Semiahmoo Resort, and there was a Washington State Recyclers Conference. It's going on, and met a lot of people, attended a few of the things, and I was asked by the association people to say welcome words to the members who were attending. So I represented the county and the residents of Whatcom County to welcome all the people from different counties and in the whole state to our beautiful place called Whatcom County.
And I have nothing. If there's no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.